Good morning, good morning, good morning from the Breakaway Studios. We have the morning scroll here. My name is David Khait. It is August 8th, I believe it is.
It is August 8th.
Wow, the summer just flew by. But Fabian, you ready to scroll and see what's happening on the news, what's happening on Twitter, what the world is talking about?
I've been scrolling since this morning, and I'm telling you, I've never lived in a time where news comes out so fast. There's so much happening, but the difference is that we can get information raw at the speed of light. Whereas before, we had to wait until the mainstream media digested it, added their narrative, and then gave it to us.
What I do know is that President Trump will be doing a general news conference at 2 p.m. today at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, interesting.
Might have to live stream that a little later.
Yeah. He's been, what I feel is like the Kamala hype, the hype train, they just blasted off last week, and it's been just churning and churning and churning. And now it's like a boxer, you get a few punches in, then the boxer takes a few punches. Now it's Trump's turn. He has an interview with Elon Musk coming up on Monday, which is going to be, I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of views it's going to get, because Elon Musk has a larger platform than anybody in the world. So, and obviously Trump is Trump. So I'm interested in seeing that.
That's going to be a really good interview, right? Because first of all, Elon kind of pioneered, or I don't know if pioneered, but is leading this free speech platform. He's really advocating for free speech to be accessible on the internet. So now he's platforming a former president that the media for a very, very long time has tried to censor completely. And now, because Twitter, I think you said this yesterday, is the number one used app, especially in the UK right now, to get the information. Now Elon will be allowing a person that's been censored for a while to be platformed on his platform to talk to people. Because you and I know this, Trump doesn't directly use Twitter. There are accounts that say, hey, this is like what he posts on Truth, and they just post that on there, right? But Trump doesn't directly use Twitter. So this is a great opportunity to expose his real truth himself to the people of Twitter.
Yeah, I'm curious how you resolve that, because obviously his company, it used to be called DWAC. I forget what it is. It's DJT, I think, is the company name now, the stock. Mm-hmm. That's part of Truth Social.
Yep.
Like they're under their umbrella. So if Trump were to use X, that would degrade the value of DJT or whatever it's called, and then degrade his stock value because he has a majority of shares. But at some point, you got to go where everyone's at, man. And I hope Elon Musk asks him about this. He presses him, because at the end of the day, the most important thing to do is to win the election, not to have the highest stock price on your media company. And if it's between that, those two things, I think the decision is get back on Twitter. Somehow work something out with Elon behind the scenes, like, hey, I'm going to take a massive hit to my thing. Maybe you can buy some stock in it. Maybe you can pay us something in return for me posting on X. I don't know, but there's a deal. He's a businessman. Get it done. Get back on X, Donald Trump, because we need you on there.
I feel like one big problem that he has is that he probably signed some sort of exclusivity contract with Truth Social, right? So it's almost like, hey, he needs to figure something out where it's like, okay, maybe he'll post on Truth Social first, and then a couple hours later, he's able to post that on Twitter.
There's definitely a way.
There is definitely a way. Fabian, let's go overseas because of the chaos that's happening in the UK. I didn't realize how big that actually is and the whole situation there. But yesterday, we were finishing working and we were walking up the stairs and you laughed. You said, holy crap, there was an ISIS terror plot that was just foiled about people trying to attack a Taylor Swift concert in Austria. And this morning, the New York Post wrote that Taylor Swift's ISIS suspects planned to drive a bomb-driven car into the crowd, and they were hired by stadium security. So the teens were arrested for plotting an ISIS-style terror attack at one of Taylor Swift's Austrian concerts this week, had planned to drive a bomb-filled car into the crowd to kill as many as possible, and had reportedly just been hired by the venue to work security.
Yep. In Europe, a lot of the security guards are of Arab descent. And it's just because, that's what you do. You get into security. And in Sweden, I won't say all, but I'm going to say maybe 80% of all the guards at the clubs and the places like that, they're all of Arab descent. And so this makes a lot of sense to me. They're hiring a company that's, a lot of times, we don't know who runs these companies. It could be somebody associated with the mob or a terrorist cell or whatever it is. But this makes sense to me. So I definitely can see that happening. And it's sad that they were literally planning on killing as many Taylor Swift concert goers as possible.
You know what's crazy to me is that this is, I feel like, the first time I've heard of an ISIS plot in Europe in a really long time. This really gives me flashbacks to that big ISIS terrorist attack that they had in Spain, where they had a coordinated attack in 3 different locations.
Yeah.
That was 2012, 2014, something like that. I can't really remember. But when Trump was president, he completely destroyed the caliphate itself, which completely destroyed any ability to organize or plan things. They solely relied on small cells being inspired by whatever to commit these things. But now it feels like a little different time. There's so many refugees now in Europe. A lot of them came from predominantly Muslim countries. A lot of them haven't adopted to the culture that is in the country that they moved to. And they're still being driven by this Islamic ideology. A lot of them are Islamic fundamentalists. And it's scary to see now them feeling empowered to do this kind of stuff. Because again, I just want to remind you that between 2018 and I want to say 2017 and 2020, 2021, 2022 even, we didn't really have this feeling. It's lately started to come back, like what we used to feel back in the day.
Yeah, and kind of to tie it back to Sweden, when I go out and these security guards, they're extremely rude to the native Swedish people, like extremely rude. Like they will throw you out of the club, they'll push you, like they're very rude. And the Swedish people are just trying to get into this place. So I sense this like angst from them, not all of them obviously, but especially me because I'm American. So they're just like, oh, hey, how are you? And they love me. But I see the way they treat regular Swedish people and regular Swedish women specifically. And I'm like, why would you allow your woman to be treated like this? I even posted on X when I was there. I was outside looking at everything happening. And I'm like, this is not the way it's supposed to be. They have a very, very bad problem. And thankfully, the right is starting to stand up. The anti-immigration policies are starting to come out. Is it too late? Hopefully not, but we'll see. But we know that this is the plan to infiltrate all of Europe, all the world with unfettered immigration. They're trying to do it here. They're doing it everywhere. So if anyone likes puzzles or likes figuring things out, it's not that hard. Like, look at Spain, look at France, look at the United States, look at every Western nation. It's not like we have Polish immigrants flooding into like Zimbabwe or something like that, right? It's only one-way traffic. And someone in Ireland made this point. I don't know who it was. It was just a guy. But he said, I don't know, let's say the population of Ireland is 10 million. I don't know what it is, right? There's 10 million of us. And they're being inundated by people from, I don't know, whatever African country. Let's just say Zimbabwe, because I forget which one. He's like, there's like 80 million of them or whatever. Why is it that they have to come here? Like, I don't understand. Like, why is everyone coming here specifically? And
because
I laugh.
It's America, bro. You know why? Here's what I don't understand. If they come to the United States or they come to these European countries and they're so drastically different than the cultures and the customs that these individuals are accustomed to, then why the hell did they not stay in the country that they came from, where it's culturally acceptable to have these crazy things that they want to, like beating women or their wives and whatever it is. The other question I have is, why don't they go to other predominantly Arab/Muslim countries? Why don't they go to Iran? Why don't you guys go to Yemen? Why the hell do you guys flee from Syria under Bashar Assad to freaking Europe? I truly don't understand that. It's completely different. Now, if this is some part of a plan that is somehow we haven't, been able to uncover, that there's maybe like a thing within the Muslim world that says we need to expand the overall caliphate, or the possibility of having a caliphate. The predominantly Muslim countries are already predominantly Muslim countries. There's no shift or cultural difference that they can enact there. But in countries like France and countries like Germany, that's where they can actually change the Western civilization and make people adapt to their traditions and cultures. So maybe it's part of some grand conspiracy that we have no idea about, that they're trying to go all over the world, destabilize these regions, implement Islamic fundamentalism there so they can create a much bigger caliphate than we'd ever imagine.
Wait, you mean the Muslims are going to go against the Christians? I've never heard. Wait, wasn't there something that happened back in the day, David? I think so. Like, massive wars for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And this is just the modern iteration of that. But now it's being propelled by people who want to actively destroy countries because they say sovereign countries should not exist. A passport should not exist. You should be a citizen of the world. And you know what's really scary about that? People who want communism, right? One world government. Hey, why do we have all these differences? Let's all be the same. Let's all be the same. Well, what is capitalism? It's competition. Competition between different people with different ideas who do the same thing a different way. Whoever does it the best and the most efficient makes the most money. That's a capitalist system. This is the opposite. So all of this, we've been able to lower poverty. Just an insane amount compared to any other time in the history of the world. It all came from technological evolution or revolution, and that comes from people competing to make the best product. If you have a world government telling everybody what to do and no one has the freedom to do anything differently, think about how retarded that world would be. And I say retarded in the actual French meaning en retard, meaning slow
have to
down,
be careful
stop.
here.
No, I mean, I'll say retarded either way. But in the French version, think about how inefficient that world would be. Like you think you don't know your Congress members now? Imagine if they were all stationed at The Hague, in the Netherlands, and you never saw them, but yet they were supposedly talking for you, right? This kind of goes back to the no taxation without representation. It's the same exact thing all over again.
It is. It's when will Americans fight back finally? I like that meme that they have. It's like 150 years ago, you would go to a civil war just because they rose your taxes by 1%.
Yep.
And now they raise your taxes by like 20 or 30%.
And you're
just scrolling on, oh, screw it. I guess I can't afford something, right?
Jeez.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Boxer who failed gender tests makes it to the gold medal match. Here's what we know. 2 Olympic boxers who failed past gender tests have easily made their way to the gold matches in their respective weight classes at the Paris Games. One is from Taiwan and another one is from Algeria. Both of them failed gender tests facilitated by the International Boxing Association. Still, the Olympics permitted both fighters to compete in women's boxing. The 2 individuals have notably dominated female opponents. Both have won every single round, and one of them even won every judge's card. They're now guaranteed either gold or silver.
Imagine that. So there's 2 men fighting.
Well, hold up. Let's address this correctly.
Okay.
Because actually, one of them is, I'm not sure about the one from Taiwan, but the girl from Algeria or the guy from, I don't know how to the individual from Algeria has XY chromosomes because they were born as an intersex. They are a woman, but they do have XY chromosomes, meaning that they're one of these rare cases where it's an intersex. But
so it's part man. It's part man. Okay.
But in the testosterone, the chromosomes are men.
Yeah.
The I can never say that word. Testosterone levels.
Oh, testosterone.
Testosterone levels are higher than what it is for women, and they are more on par with a male. So just wanted some context for you.
So basically, they have the same thing as if you're doping, you have elevated levels of something in your body, and then you can't compete, right? Conor McGregor, John Jones, they all got popped for this stuff. So this half guy or whatever, this intersex person also has the same levels indicating that, hey, you're way too this to fight because we have these standards. And they both failed, and they're both still allowed to fight?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, I think this is just an extension of the ideology that we're seeing, taking over Europe, taking over America now. We had a guy on our TikTok live yesterday that advocated for abortions, but when it came down to this situation, he said that the federal government shouldn't intervene. And he said, shouldn't we as conservatives want to advocate for that? Sure, I don't like government intervention, but the government does have a duty to protect its citizens. As crazy as that sounds,
imagine
that, right?
That.
And
protect them from themselves.
Right? So when they protected women from ensuring that only women compete in sports, now they've allowed the Biden administration and the Harris administration have allowed essentially anybody that claims to be a woman, even if you're a biological male, to compete in women's sports. So to me, this is when I'd say, yes, the federal government needs to intervene because you cannot allow this stuff to happen. One of the girls that was competing against the Algerian girl lost in 46 seconds. This Italian girl, very pretty. She said she's never in her entire life has been hit that hard.
Yeah, well, she never fought a man. And, so take this to the next step because 5 years ago, we were making fun of this, right? Like, remember Leah Thomas came in and then she was just swimming and we're like, this will never go to contact sports because it just doesn't make sense. Why would a man ever fight a woman? Remember they were talking about football and they're like, no. And now we're here. Now we're we're in the Olympics and we have 2 men fighting each other. And we just had a woman get paralyzed playing volleyball because a guy spiked the ball into her head.
And laughed afterwards. And the crazy thing about that's not college level. That's not professional level. That's in high school.
That's in high school. What's next? If you can be any gender you want, well, why can't you be any age you want? So if I'm a man and I identify as an 8-year-old, can I go play pee-wee football? Can I go play pee-wee tennis?
They do say that age is just a number, right?
In postmodernism, there are no objective facts, so you can literally be whatever you want. They throw facts out the window. So why can I, as a man who's, let's say, whatever age I'm at, identify as an 8-year-old and go really fuck up some 8-year-old kids and win a trophy?
Let's do that, Fabian. Let's do that, actually. Let's just show how ridiculous this entire ideology is. Just like James Lindsay did with those papers,
Yep.
right? Why don't we just go and sign you up for 8 and under baseball league, something like that?
I'm ready, baby.
Screw baseball. I want an individual sport. Let's go do tennis. You're going to go compete as a 30-plus-year-old against 8-year-olds in tennis. Yep. We're going to get you really good, and you're going to become the number one 8-year-old across all United States.
That's amazing.
Let's do that.
I'm definitely down, and then watch them stop me. And then what's crazy is because of that, the community, the alphabet community, will have to support me, because if not, I'm going to feel oppressed. I also take donations from Act Blue, so if you guys have any dead people who are donating, shoot some my way. Act Blue, I got you.
That is funny. What else we got? We got Tampon Tim.
Tim.
We'll just be brief with this, but across Twitter the last few days, Tampon Tim has been trending as a hot topic, and everybody that looked at it for the first time and didn't understand why, let me just give you a brief explanation why, and it's very quick. Where is it? Walz signed legislation to ensure minors for not only his state but across the country can get sex change operations in Minnesota. He also, inside that bill, signed a requirement for schools to stock period products in boys' bathrooms. And again, this isn't high schoolers or college kids. This starts as young as 4th grade. So Tampon Tim is his new name, and like I've been saying for a while, this guy is freaking weird, Fabian. Like, what the hell? He's the one that termed this new attack against Republicans that they're weird. This dude is purely weird.
You want to know how weird he is? He literally said today, when I'm having a tough day, I think Ilhan Omar is in Congress, and I smile. Dude, the guy's a straight socialist, communist. He talked about he has stolen valor. He really didn't go and do what he did. He also said he was a football coach. He was not a football coach. He was an assistant coach. He was never a head coach like he claimed to be.
There's a funny picture that I saw this morning of it's a picture from Trump's attempted assassination, and it's the lady Secret Service behind the entire pack, hiding while everybody else is piling on Trump, and it's like Tim Walz combat friends in Iraq, and then it's Tim Walz as the lady hiding behind and everything. That's exactly what it is. But I feel like go ahead.
Michael Knowles posted this, and this is, I like when Michael Knowles posts because he always posts really good stuff. He said, remember when President Trump almost had his head blown off 25 days ago, and then we learned basically nothing about the shooter, and then the Secret Service and the FBI lied about it, and then the media stopped talking about it, and then big tech suppressed the research, and then big tech suppressed its results in search. Weird.
Yeah, I mean, I heard somebody say this about 2 weeks ago, that the political climate that we're living in today will probably result that in about 2 weeks, which he was so accurate on, that everybody will forget about this historic thing, the attempted assassination of
That's
a
because they
former
want to
president.
keep you moving in the little vortex. They got to keep pushing you forward. So you don't imagine your short-term memory loss of every day you have to digest new information and then you forget about what happened yesterday. They keep you like addicted to crack almost, just like when you scroll Instagram, you get that dopamine rush, right? Like what's happened today. You forget about yesterday. That's what they want. That's how they push the future forward.
The future forward, right? Which we know that was part of Kamala's new campaign showing in this battleground state of ours, Georgia here. But yeah, Fabian, it's just crazy to me that somehow they've been able to do that even in something so historical like an assassination attempt of a former president, that 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, nobody cares about that. Nobody talks about that. The craziest thing to me about that is that after that assassination attempt, there wasn't even a drastic spike in the polls for Trump. And I mean, that's just wild to me. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I did want to let's shift gears again. So yesterday, J.D. Vance, after physically walking up to Kamala Harris's plane to ask why she's hiding from reporters, he said, hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months. And I also thought you guys may get lonely because the VP doesn't answer questions from reporters. I like this troll game.
He's basically showing her what a man does. Yeah, he's exhibiting what people on the left call toxic masculinity. I disagree that it's toxic. It's how we procreate. It's how we keep making humans, men being men and women being attracted to men. That's how biology works. That's how nature works. Now, if you're a postmodernist, if you're a leftist, you don't believe in any of that. You don't believe that there are men or women or identities or genders or whatever. You just believe that you're oppressed. And you know what's interesting is like they throw all facts out the window, right? That doesn't matter. All that matters is how I feel. Like that's the reality. That's what they say, lived experience. Right? What I live is my reality. So I can be oppressed. But then when you show them objective facts, they don't understand how to solidify that into something that they can talk out against. Like if you say, well, why is a woman's pelvis different than a man's? Well, because she gives birth, so it's made differently, right? Why are there two different chromosomes types in man and woman, XXXY? Like, is that imaginary or is that like a fact, right? Is that a fact? And then they'll point to, well, some people are born intersex. Okay, so what, 0.001% of the population? It's like these arguments that they always keep saying over and over again, and they're cliched, they're trite, they're overused, and they don't work anymore.
Charlie Kirk, I think, said it best, that majority of the time, these people's ideology requires them to supersede reality. And when that happens, when they're trying to solidify some narrative or ideology that they believe in, they will start to make up facts. I say make up facts because they actually think that these are objective facts, but it's not. It's their truth. And we've heard that multiple times from people that are ideologically driven like that there is their truth, and we know that there is the truth. And that is when it's dangerous. You can't really even argue with these people because you can't find any common ground in terms of objective facts. And if you can't find that, if, for example, we can't agree that a biological male possesses XY chromosomes, then this individual, it's going to be hard to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And that is the scariest thing, because these people are then so demoralized that they will believe anything as long as it fits their narrative and ideology. We see this with Trump derangement syndrome. People will believe the most outrageous things possible just to solidify their hatred for Trump. I think it's just one of the craziest things ever. And,
Yeah.
Alexander Solzhenitsyn with the Gulag Archipelago, right? He's the one that proposes this overall ideology in the first place, that you will have these people that won't believe reality. You can bring them to the gulags and show them how they operate and how negative they are to overall society, and they will still deny them. They will deny that they exist and stuff like that. Why? Because it doesn't fit in the ideology that they believe in, which could be Marxism, whatever it is, right? So,
Absolutely. No, it's if you're listening, you haven't read the Gulag Archipelago, I definitely suggest it.
Бабушка, мы работаем, ты что, с ума сошла? Бабушка, ты с ума сошла, уходи. Бабушка, я работаю здесь. Ты не должна ехать, уходи, бабушка, дай я закончу. Jeez. Okay, please go ahead.
So this is really interesting. A super PAC supporting Harris's presidential campaign is offering money to OnlyFans stars to make videos bashing Trump and his supporters. The PAC offered $1,500 for a single video under 90 seconds long. However, they mistakenly reached out to Michael Dougherty, who is a Trump supporter. And in his video, he literally shows...
Some Drag Queen Story Hour. So about a week ago, I received this email from a group called Palette Media or Palette Management. And basically what they were asking for is $1,500 for anti-Trump content on TikTok. So they basically sent me this kind of like creator brief with all the asks that they have and everything, and like do's and don'ts, like don't show any form of support for Donald Trump and his allies, gloat about Harris and her allies, attack Trump supporters for their intellectual or personal values. So they're basically creating division and paying for division online, which is crazy. So me being me, I was like, I kind of got to investigate this stuff. So I started like emailing back and forth with the lady. So I basically said, thank you for sending over. I will review. Is this for the Kamala campaign or for like a PAC's campaign? And basically I was able to investigate and find out that this is actually a campaign with Future Forward, which is kind of like one of the biggest super PACs. And they have like millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars for advertisements for the Biden campaign. And
so that's what it is, manufactured. And let's get into the TikTok thing, because
Yeah, it's crazy. So first of all, I've known about this for a while, that they're hiring influencers to promote whatever the DNC wants them to promote. And just to go through this thing, there's people like Harry Sisson, there's people like Parker, there's people like Tommy, all of these page shields that they work for that exact company, Palette Management. Palette Management essentially just manages these content creators and pays them to do whatever they want them to do. Where does Palette Management get its money? From the DNC. So the DNC takes money,
From
funnels
Act
it from Act Blue, right? From Act Blue donations. So Act Blue donations go to the DNC. The DNC then puts this money into influencer campaigns like Palette Management, which then tells them what to say, what campaigns they want them to spread. And then people like Parker, Harry, Sisson, and whatnot go on to propagate whatever narrative the DNC wants them to propagate for an X amount of money, which is why you saw Harry Sisson cozy up to Joe Biden till the minute he dropped out. And then 30 minutes later, after he dropped out, he was his biggest defender saying, no, he has to stay in, blah, blah, blah. And 30 minutes after he dropped out, he went and endorsed Kamala Harris already. These people don't say what they mean. They are straight propaganda.
Straight propaganda. This is the CCP and the KGB all over again in the modern age, using people who, the same kinds of people that they used back then, people who don't really know or are just scared or just want to make money. Like this is crazy. And then all these kids are watching these people thinking it's real. So they're just manipulating media as they have done in legacy media for a very long time. And now they've taken it to alternate media, which is the new way of media, because these people get way more views than the traditional legacy media companies and media shows. So everything that you look at with your eyes is probably fake, and everything you hear with your ears is probably fake, especially in politics. This is the most conniving people in it ever get into politics. Most narcissistic, egocentric driven people, power hungry driven people are in politics. So if you go to a bad part of town, you know what kind of people you're going to run into, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're listening to people in politics, know what kind of people you're listening to. Don't go in and say, wow, that's a pretty commercial. I wonder how many marketers worked on that. Kamala Harris must be amazing. We're on TikTok Live every day, and we hear all of these white males come on the TikTok Live and argue for Kamala Harris, and they are 100% paid to do that.
Yeah, like you said yesterday, we can almost finish their sentences when they come on, because they say, I'm voting for Kamala because it's a vote against Trump. I hate Trump because he's a threat to democracy. Mm-hmm. He's a fascist. He wants to take our rights. He's a racist. We can literally finish their sentences at this point, and it's crazy. But you brought up a great point, actually, that I didn't even think about. When people like Harry Sisson post, other people, especially young people, see, wow, this young guy, he knows about politics and
how does he know so much about these things?
He must be saying the right thing, so I'll trust him, and this is the way that I'll start to think. So it's actually a very effective method that they're using to drive a narrative that they want, to propagate a certain narrative or propaganda that they want through these people that are look like role models to the younger generation. To these 50, 60-year-olds, Harry Sisson looks like a complete idiot. Mm-hmm. Even if they're Democrats, they still look at him and say, wow, he's just literally has a piece of paper and is reading off of it, and it's what the DNC tells him to say.
You know what's scary? Okay, in Argentina, before Milei took over 50% of the population worked for the federal government or worked for the government. That's insane.
That's insane.
Over 50%.
That's crazy.
But when you work for the government and the government pays your job, you are beholden to the government, not to the people you're supposed to be helping. The people you're supposed to be helping are just your job, but your money and your livelihood comes from the government. Therefore, you're more beholden to them than the people you're supposed to help. Think about this. The DNC is effectively, when they're doing this, they're creating an army of employees. The Democratic Party, an army of employees, which is like a de facto government job. Mm-hmm. So if they can use all of this money coming from all these donors all over the world, and probably a lot of taxpayer funds that have been stolen and funneled and brought back in through other channels, then you're effectively creating a bureaucracy of individuals who aren't in government, but that work for you because you pay their bills.
Oh my God.
Think about that.
That's crazy. Wait, so Javier Milei became president, and then what?
He started slashing apartments, cutting government jobs all over the place. Remember when he's like, afuera, afuera? So that's what he did. But the Democrats are doing the opposite, where they're trying to enlist all these people into the Democratic Army. We already know they have the Sunrise Movement, which is just crazy thing pushed by the Biden campaign, because it's called the Climate Corps, where they want to take 20,000, I think it's 20,000 or 200,000, I forget the number, young climate activists, young people, train them on climate activism, and then release them into the professional world. And they were pushed to do this by something called the Sunrise Movement. And everyone should look. I've done many videos on this movement. The Sunrise Movement is a very, very Marxist, critical race theory driven organization that they want to, and they say literally on their website, we will go city to city, door to door, until everyone knows about climate change. So it's essentially the KGB coming to your door and knocking and saying, hey, hi, do you know about climate change? Do you believe in it? Who are you going to vote for? Like, that's trippy.
It is. It is. And I feel like there's also a larger plan to it by training these people to be such activists in these various social justice fields, then to create departments for these people. And when they create departments for these people, then these people become unelected bureaucrats that can hinder whatever piece of legislation or ability for us as a society to thrive because of whatever ideological belief. So they're not just going out to the people in society to convince them of these issues, but then they are put in places of the government where they can hinder certain things and promote their activism and ideology even more. And that's why they're so scared of things like Supreme Court overturning the Chevron doctrine, right? Because it doesn't necessarily allow any more of these unelected bureaucrats to have so much power over even the legislative branch.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, think about this. Justin Trudeau, right? He was a young global leader of Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum. That's how you created leaders back then, right? People who like puppets. You got them young, you tailored them, mentored them the way you wanted to, and then you say, hey, I'm going to put money behind you to run you for office and put money behind your campaign. That's exactly what they're doing with these Harry Sisson types, right? He's just a kid, but they are paying. They're not only are they paying him to create content, they're also running ads for him using this super PAC money to get it even more popular. Then they're having all their article writers and their people on Twitter repost him because they're paying those people to repost Democratic, soy boys. And so they're manufacturing this image of him. And they're doing the same thing. They're paying money to make him popular and famous. And the more famous he gets, the more ROI that they get on their puppet. And at some point in the future, guess what? I don't know where Harry Sisson lives, but would he run for office? And at that point, what kind of a following would he have? How much money would it take for his opponent to battle him out using commercial and traditional media and non-traditional media? Because the guy has such an enormous following already. It almost be like, back in the day when I worked on campaigns, name recognition was very, very important. And in a statewide race, if your name recognition is 10 points below your opponent, back then, I don't know the numbers now, they said that you need to spend about $1 million per 1% just for name recognition. Wow. Imagine if you're doing that against a Harry Sisson type. It'd be almost too much money to spend to even have you run against him in an actual competitive way. And I think that's what they're building.
That is really interesting. I don't think anybody has even thought about that. The fact that these 21-year-old, 22-year-olds that are sitting on TikTok and are being fed information from the DNC and being paid to say that stuff are actually building a name for themselves so they can create a permanent Democrat seat in whatever congressional districts that these individuals are running into. Fabian, I think you just uncovered something wild right there.
That's marketing, man. That's how they think. What's your longest ROI? How young can you get them? And how long can we have him around? This kid, whatever he was doing before, he's not doing anymore. He doesn't have any sponsorship deal. I mean, I don't know, but I'm going to assume. He's making so much money from this that they're saying, hey, we don't want you to do anything else. We just want you to be our spokesperson. That's it, our mouthpiece. And they're giving him so much money, he's not doing anything else. So in about a year, that kid's going to live inside such a fucking bubble. He's not going to know what reality is. He's going to be just like a politician, just like a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Cory Bush, whatever. Yeah. And then they really have him. Because imagine trying to think objectively when your entire livelihood comes from the people that are telling you to say things. That's a true puppet. Yeah. They're literally telling you what to say on a piece of paper, and you're saying, screw Donald Trump. He's a racist. He's a blah, blah, blah. Now, hey, good job. Pat on the head. Here's your money. Yep. And then you go walk away.
That's crazy. Let's shift to one last story before we end our morning scroll. The corruption of institutions, because I feel like that's a perfect...
including the Olympics, which is an institution.
Exactly. So
one of the oldest.
A pro-life father is facing 11 years in prison, says that Biden's DOJ is targeting conservative Christians. A father of two is facing more than a decade in prison over his participation in a peaceful pro-life protest in Michigan. On Wednesday, he said that he couldn't fathom spending another week away from his wife and family. So this guy is facing up to 11 years in federal prison and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines if convicted of a felony conspiracy against the Rights and FACE Act charges this month. His trial, alongside that of 6 other co-defendants, began this week. He's a devout Christian and pro-life advocate. He was targeted by the Biden administration after he sat and stood in front of the doors of a Northern Land Family Planning Clinic, aka Planned Parenthood, in Michigan. In an interview, he said that he couldn't imagine getting a prison sentence. I don't want to spend 11 years in prison. I can't fathom spending 11 years in prison. I can't fathom spending another week away from my wife, my kids, because I'm over here. So, and he said that he's scared So, what do you think about this? Is it somehow illegal to protest in front of a Planned Parenthood?
According to the government, it is. They have this rule, and I forget the rule, but my good friends over at Survivor US, they deal with this all the time. They passed a rule, I forget in what year, like 1980 something, I believe. And I may misspeak because I don't know the details. But there's a rule that if you protest if you block the entrance to one of these clinics, meaning standing outside, meaning praying outside, meaning singing songs, whatever it is, it's crazy offense where you get a very, very, very long time in jail. Last year, there was, I think, 3 people that were singing Christian songs or some kind of songs at one of these places. And there was an old lady in her 60s or 70s, and they want to give her 10 years just for doing that. So this is this very archaic law that's very, very bad. And I wish I could find the name, but you can simply Google it pretty easily. And it is one of the worst things done. It's to protect people getting abortions. That's all it's doing. And it's saying even if you sing songs or you try to educate people outside within a certain perimeter, you'll go to jail for a very long time, like 10 plus years.
Yeah, that act actually is called the FACE Act.
The FACE Act.
And they charge you with a conspiracy against rights, meaning that you're trying to deprive an individual of rights because they believe that abortion is a right or woman right, whatever it is.
And this is not well known either. A lot of people don't understand this.
It's crazy because, for example, when Stop the Oil is protesting and blocking entrances to, let's say, me refilling my car with oil, apparently they're not depriving me of my right there. But only when it comes down to something so controversial like abortion, apparently Democrats want to use institutions to prosecute individuals that oppose them, which is crazy because, again, if you're just singing songs, if you're protesting, I can see maybe blocking the entrance, meaning like not even just standing in front of the entrance, but if you're standing there and you're like, don't go do this or whatever, that's not you blocking it. The person still can go around you and get inside. If you're physically blocking and the person literally cannot get inside, okay, that's one thing. But these people, majority of the time, are just standing outside, advocating for people not to do this, singing songs, like you said. And Democrats, especially what we've seen in the last few years, is that they are willing to use institutions like the DOJ to politically persecute people that oppose their views, which is just a scary, slippery slope. And it's scary to think that, it's what they do. And it's scary to think that they can actually imprison people over this.
Well, and to finish off, I know we were going to close up, but something in Europe, and I can't believe we didn't bring this up before, they are now instructing police to search online for people who have retweeted something that they believe to be misinformation or disinformation or hate speech online.
Wow.
They're actively putting people in prison now. There was a video that just came out. The police entered this man's home and they said, hey, stand up, you're going to jail because of something that you posted online. Elon Musk already posted this. He just reposted it like a few hours ago and said it's already happening. People are going to prison for what they say online. Now, we know that England doesn't have a First Amendment. We do. But we heard the vice president nominee say we cannot allow misinformation and disinformation online, essentially saying, hey, no more First Amendment. And we know that's what they're coming for. That's his whole thing, it's freedom of speech. No right to free speech if the government decides it is misinformation or hateful.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
And especially around our democracy.
The problem I have with these people is that what is their definition of misinformation? Because that is a very subjective standard that they're putting forward.
It's whatever they want it to be, whenever they want it to be.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
And that's how they guise hate speech laws that are very tyrannical, in my opinion, because all they want to do is try and remove any way that you can to challenge a certain narrative or to challenge things that are coming from the mainstream or even things coming from Tim Walz's mouth.
Absolutely. Screw that guy. Damn commie.
Damn commie. And that's how we'll end it, right?
Let's do it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining that. If you've been throughout this entire time, go ahead and like, share, repost this all over the place, and join us tomorrow for another Morning Scroll with the boys.
See ya.